The Arkansas Public Policy Panel is a statewide organization dedicated to achieving social and economic justice while organizing citizens groups around the state, educating and supporting them to be more effective and powerful, and linking them with one another in coalitions and networks. The panel seeks to bring balance to the public policy process in Arkansas. The Folding Chair is a podcast that is accessible and relatable to everyone to engage people around the topic of racial equity in Arkansas, powered by the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. And now, welcome to The Folding Chair, hosted by Osyrus Bolly. All right, everybody, welcome to The Folding Chair Podcast. I'm your host, Osyrus Bolly. The Folding Chair Podcast is powered by the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. And the reason we entitled it The Folding Chair is a quote from Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And so today at the table with us, we got Kwami and Clarice Abdul-Bey with the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement and so many other things they got going on in the community. So we just want to shout them out right quick. How y'all doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Glad that we finally got y'all on here. This is wrapping up our first quarter. Our first 4 guests, so you know what I'm saying, it's been real nice and getting a lot of good feedback from it. So appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Sticking with me, man, on this one.
Yeah.
So
you're doing a great job yourself, brother.
Thank you. So all right, good energy up in here. So we're gonna start it off with the 7 hitter quitters. These are just some questions, man, for people who may not know y'all, just some fun questions that we like to just ask people random. Try not to repeat them for other guests, so different questions for each guest. So my first question.
Before you ask that, ladies first. She has to answer first, right?
Okay.
All
right. Come on, Clarice.
Put me on the spot.
Okay, now ask the question.
All right, spotlight.
I'm strong. Let's do it.
Okay. Now these are random, very
That's
random.
cool.
All right. So first question. Biggest food regret? Like anything you ever tried you just wish you just hadn't tried?
Chitterlings.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was a childhood disaster. Yeah.
So did you do it voluntarily or?
Yeah, my grandma. You know when grandma cooks stuff, you want to respect grandmother. So grandmother would make them, and during the holidays she would make them, and it was one of those things where it was like on the plate with all the good stuff, and she like try these, and would watch you like come taste it, and that type thing. She was proud of it, so I didn't want to disrespect her. So yeah.
So you wasn't in the house when she cooked it?
Funny thing, in our communities, you find chitterlings, but if you go west, you will never find a bucket of chitterlings. So
You talking about like west in the U.S.?
like
West in Little Rock.
West Little Rock, like the stores and stuff.
Oh, okay. I got what you're saying.
Right.
I'm like, what?
You'll never find them.
If you go west of Shackelford.
Yeah, so
Okay, I got you.
I grew up
Probably
College
west
Station,
of
Arkansas,
University.
so both my grandmothers lived in College Station.
Already.
And so that was like a big thing. And so when she would clean them, they smelled awful.
Yeah.
So I was there for that because we were there almost every Saturday visiting her. So yeah.
All right, chitlins.
Chitterlings.
I don't think I've ever had a food regret because I'm a super taster. So I can smell stuff before I taste it.
Okay.
So if it smells a certain way, I just won't eat it at all. So
We all smell stuff before we taste it.
No, I'm a super
I'm
taster.
joking.
I don't know if you know what a super taster is.
I'm learning right now.
But basically, a super taster is someone who has like about 10,000 more receptors in their tongue.
Oh, so everything is amplified.
Everything is amplified for me. So.
I wish I was. I got some food regrets too, man.
What's your food regret?
Man, I was on a work trip. Y'all probably gonna think I'm crazy, but my first time ever getting food poisoning, it was when I went to Fayetteville like a year or two ago and had authentic. This is what they told me, it was authentic Thai food.
I love Thai food.
Yes.
It just didn't agree with your stomach.
No, it was a horrible next 2 days.
You didn't have authentic Thai food then?
I don't think it was either.
You had Duafe food.
No.
Man, it was like some green oil on like the meat.
Oh.
It didn't look right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm scared now.
The food poisoning.
The food poisoning was no joke. It was horrible.
No.
Well, maybe one day we can take you out when we go to our Thai restaurants.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love Thai food.
Okay, I'm a baby step my way.
Yeah.
that was an experience.
You still got trauma from that, right?
That was my first time ever in life having food poisoning. This is like 2 years ago, so I waited a long time to get sick.
There's no joke with that one.
Yeah. Okay, so my second question, and this one might take a little bit more time for y'all unless y'all just got it off top. Mm-hmm. Name 3 artists that would be in your fantasy concert lineup, dead or alive. 3 artists or bands or whatever that would be in your fantasy concert lineup.
Fantasy concert lineup.
Yeah.
We'll go with, let's see, Prince, of course.
Okay.
That's one for me. Because I've never seen him in concert, and I never got the chance before he passed on. I know Kwame has, but I haven't.
I've been to 5 Prince.
Yeah, it was one of my livid lists, not bucket list. We say livid.
Yeah.
So it was on that list. I love De La Soul, so De La Soul will be on there. You said 3?
3.
That's hard because I love
like music. 10 people though.
Yeah.
Why you want to think about that?
Nah, man, I got one more.
Okay.
So I love festivals, and I want to go. I want to go to Jamaica, but I want to see Ja9. That's
okay.
Ja9 is she's fairly new Jamaican artist, but she's just cold-blooded, and so I want to go see her. But this is a very tough question because I have so many people I want to put on the list. You being one of them, because you are an artist, and I'm not BSing. I'm really honest about that.
I love for him and Big Piff to do an album together.
I mean, they've done something.
I'm talking about a whole album where they're on every single song.
Yeah.
That's hard right there. He don't even live here no more.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I loved was on his album. I think it was. I listened to it.
I wrote it like in the studio, so I didn't even give it a name. He gave it a name.
But
I know what point you're talking about though.
It's amazing. I just want to. I don't know if it's on the Such Is Life or I Am Not Them album.
Such Is Life.
I think it's Such Is Life.
Okay.
But it was just so dope. I was just like, what?
And I can't even tell you the name of it because I wrote it in the studio.
Yeah. Well.
I never gave it a title. I just recorded.
Yeah. Just cold-blooded though.
All right.
Thank you.
But that's me for now.
So
you should have put
the first thing that came to my mind. First thing that came to my mind when you asked that question is I have a trilogy. I mean a trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to create a religion, this would be my Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. My trinity.
Okay, that's cool.
And my trinity is Prince, Terrence Trent D'Arby, and Maxwell.
Dope.
And if they could all 3 be on the same album as a group, a super group, and then in concert. So.
That is dope. I wouldn't expect that those 3 artists from you. The Prince I could see for sure. Yeah. Terrence, dope artist, man. Yeah. That was shocking right there. All right, well, that's good. That's a good look. Them vibing on that album, man, would be real interesting.
I'd like to see. I know that.
Can somebody find Terrence Trent D'Arby?
Right. Where
he lives in London now, and he's under a new name.
Already. Okay. No wonder I don't know where he is.
Exactly.
That's what's up. Dope.
I think he's running from the tax man.
Man, ain't no telling. If you're in Europe, somewhere, man, you know what I'm saying? Hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? All right. So next, give me an unwritten rule to the work that you do, like something that ain't got to be spoke, but it's already kind of like understood. An unwritten rule, and not like necessarily like y'all jobs. I'm talking about like the work as far as like the community.
Unwritten rule.
Yeah. Like for me, it would be like
right.
Like for me, it's like making sure that when we have like things that involve me and my people, the space is safe. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? Like, people when we speak, hey, you don't run and go tell that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is understood that we working on this together, and we don't speak on this unless it's been agreed on everybody. Say what you want to do. Some things might get said that don't need to get documented or put on camera or something like that.
Okay, unspoken thing.
Yeah.
For me, that it's a family space. Like children are welcome.
Yeah, dope.
Because we have children, young children, and then Lauren is always with us. So for me, it's making space for people to bring their children and making it be a community space. Even though we're strategizing,
mm-hmm.
they need to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, and even if we have them playing in another area or in the area and they, you know what I'm saying, their attention is somewhere else, that it's safe for them to be with us.
Got you.
Yeah.
My unspoken rule is I thrive and I'm able to exist in a format where everyone is completely transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I can't function with like hidden agendas.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, here's the thing is, if you have an agenda where you want to do X, Y, Z, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me know about it so I know how to navigate what I want to do with you and what I don't want to do with you. So,
got you.
So that's what I like, complete transparency.
Dope.
You did say one thing, right?
She had a list of 20 things.
You got something else you want to add? We just flowing, you know what I'm saying? It's just all natural right here.
I think the allowance of restorative, being open to restore one another.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's important because if we work together and if there's something that has happened between us that we need to work out, knowing we need one another,
yes.
that we are open to restore one another in a way that it's like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's be real about it. Like this happened. Why?
Restorative,
you know what I'm saying?
inner justice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I just made that up.
Let's move it. Let's get it off and out of the way and off the table, and then move past that on to what's bigger than us.
Yeah.
For me, that's super important.
Nah, I feel you completely on that because like a lot of times, man, I get frustrated because like my mind is like, I want to get to the end point. I want to get to the goal.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so like a lot of times, like I'll just sit in the room and just be quiet because I know my time is going to come. And like, so what's the purpose of what we're going to do? I bet. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But you know, all the in between and you know.
Sometimes the in between is where you have to go to get there.
And I'm great. Yeah. I'm great at getting to the end. The middle is just like so difficult for me.
Yeah.
That's why I think I'm good with kids.
Yeah.
I got more patience. I got more patience, and they just look a lot more honest.
Yeah, and they're simple in that they're just like, this is what it is. Let's just do this, and you like, bet, let's do it.
Yeah, they be like, I don't want to do that. I don't like such and such. I'll be like,
real clear. You be like, okay, I don't know what to do with that, but okay, I'll work it out.
I know how to work with honesty, man.
Yeah,
trust me.
100%.
Already. So we 7 here because we on number 4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a book that enlightened, inspired, changed you, etc. A book. This would have been real hard for me, so I don't know how y'all gonna work with this because I be wanting to name like 10 books.
One book is Ida B. Wells has a book. It's her biography, and it's just the autobiography of Ida B. Wells.
That's the one that I bought you when we was in Mississippi.
You purchased many books, but I think
I'm talking about when we was at Ida B. Wells' house.
I think so, maybe.
Yeah.
That's a book that informs our work a lot because she was a part of coming to Arkansas during the Elaine 12 massacres, also during John Carter's situation. She's been in and out of here more than
I didn't know that
100 times. Yes, and she actually had to come back disguised to the South because they had a bounty on her head. Like they were out to kill her. Her book inspired me because I'm like, she was do or die, and she wanted to make a difference, knowing her life was in the balance. Were basically some white supremacists were looking for her to kill her because she was doing the work, and she wrote the red papers. It was the red papers, right? She was in those papers. She was talking about the lynchings,
Mm-hmm.
and naming names.
Yeah, she's the first one to document.
Right, she wasn't cutting no short. She was putting people out there saying they are doing this, and so her book inspires me, and it also motivates me and push me, because it informs the work, and it also gives me energy to keep going. Because if they could do it, we can certainly honor them enough to keep going and doing what we need to do.
So we're gonna run that back too. We're gonna run that conversation back.
Yeah.
All right. There are two books that come to my mind, and for two separate reasons. The first one is the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh, really?
Yes.
When I was 18 years old, I was a cadet at the United States Air Force Academy. And I was on a trajectory to become the first black president of the United States. That's what I was being groomed to do. And so when I got to the Air Force Academy, the brothers that were there that were from, the ghettos of Chicago and DC and Philadelphia, and from
brothers.
Watts, the woke brothers, they immediately told me how much of an Uncle Tom I was.
Oh,
just
wow.
by the way I carried myself, by the way I talked, by the way I wouldn't cut it, because I was one of the commanding cadets. So the way I wouldn't cut them any slack, and I was even harder on them than I was on the other white cadets. So they called me Cadet Uncle Tom. And so for my 19th birthday, November 7th, they got together and bought me the autobiography of Malcolm X. And it was my birthday was on that Friday, and I started reading that book Friday night about 10 o'clock. And I stayed in my room, because on the weekend you do whatever you want. I stayed in my room and did not put that book down until I finished it. Didn't go eat or anything. And about Sunday afternoon, I got finished it, and it totally changed my worldview and everything. And I went home that summer and changed my name to Kwami Abdul, and went over to Wright Avenue and took my Shahada and converted to Islam, because at the time I grew up in Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, and Reverend G. Roy Osborne was grooming me to become a minister when I was 17. So I was going to become a Baptist minister. I mean, he was one of the first persons that I contacted after I read the book, and I said, "Why didn't you tell me that Jesus was black?"
Oh, word.
And we had some interesting conversations, and he was so nice and responsive and didn't shut me down or anything. I get on the phone and I call him, and we had some long talks. So that book changed me, where it made me really, I was a very angry young man, because I'm like, why is it I'm 19 years old and I'm just now hearing about this guy? But I hear about Martin Luther King since I was 6 and 7. And they existed in the same time space, dealing with the same thing. And so I was very, very upset, and I remained upset for years. And it wasn't until I came back home to Little Rock after I left the academy, and that's a whole nother story. But I left the academy, came home, and I was teaching seventh grade social studies at Henderson Junior High School, and that was during the Bangin' in Little Rock HBO series. And out of that, the second book that I want to tell you about was the book that I authored, self-published myself, called The Tables Have Turned: A Street Guide to Guerrilla Lawfare. And it took me 7 years to research and write that book. But one of the things that changed me, because like I said, I was still that angry man because I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. But that book, it was some white guys out in Highway 10 who were members of the Arkansas Patriots militia, who helped me do the research on that book. And I went from just really, really, really hating white people to saying, okay, there's some good white people that can be my allies and that can help me get to where I need to get to. So that's why I chose those two books.
Highway 10, this back when Highway 10 probably didn't exist, really did the
It was trees.
trees, forests, mainly.
Yeah, that's when it was just being new. It didn't go out as far as it does now.
No, it don't. I remember because I knew somebody lived out there.
Well, there used to be a time where the city of Little Rock stopped at Shackelford.
Yeah.
When I was in junior high school, Shackelford was as far west as you could go for the city of Little Rock.
Just forests out there. That's what's up.
By the way, the complete name of that book is The Crusade for Justice, the autobiography of Ida B. Wells.
Oh, okay.
Crusade for Justice.
Yeah, Crusade for Justice.
I'm writing these book titles down.
Yeah, I saw you taking a note, so I wanted
because I just recently sent out a list of like 25 books that I
Good.
felt like people could read.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna be adding to that
That's awesome.
throughout the year because I want people to read as much as they can possible, especially people who are asking all the questions that we don't feel like answering all day long.
Yes.
Just go read it for yourself.
Quick reads, yeah.
Because I can't tell you your truth. So
Right.
you got to research your own.
Yep.
On your own.
I like that.
Already. So okay, next one. Give me a fun fact about your family. Fun fact.
Our family or just family
It
period?
don't matter. Both of y'all can answer this question.
Fun fact.
It could be anything. It could be anything.
I live in a nudist colony.
Okay.
my peoples like to walk around butt naked while we in the house.
Hey, natural. Okay.
Okay. Whoa. Too much information. Let's see. I guess for us, fun fact is it's fun facts.
I
We
think
like
we
to
just
travel.
hit it
I
right
think we
there.
like to travel, but we can't. That's the thing. Like
Because of what's going on right now.
yeah,
It's kind of hampered us, but we love to get in that car and just go.
Nah.
But
but with everything going on, it's hard to do
since January, we haven't done anything because of what's going on.
Nah, man, I think that's become an issue with a lot of people, man. People, especially people who don't like just enjoy getting out around the city every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, taking those trips to get away from the city, get away from the state.
Yeah.
Because man, you can't even leave Arkansas and go a few places. Because if you do, you come to Arkansas, you got a 14-day quarantine.
Yep.
That's right.
You sure do. Once you cross that border.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man. But that's what's up. Hopefully, you know, whenever everybody start putting in their own effort in this group project, we'll get over
Indeed.
this pandemic.
Indeed. I'm glad you said it's actually a group project, and everybody got to do their own.
I used to hate group projects because somebody always not pulling their weight.
And you see it right now. Like you said, you like children versus adults.
Man. Ooh.
But you know, we like, not only do we like traveling, we like live music.
Mm-hmm.
And
Festivals.
yes, this spring, Michael Franti, which is one of our most favorite artists.
He's more yours, but
yeah,
I've fallen pretty much in love.
Tell me, say the name again.
Michael Franti.
Michael Franti. What kind of music?
Michael Franti plays roots, soul, a little bit of everything. You know, he was a member of the what was it? The Disciples of Hypocrisy. West hip hop group back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
You hear of Michael Franti and Spearhead.
Michael Franti.
Okay, I've heard of the name Spearhead.
Yeah,
Spearhead. He's the lead, but he.
I have to go look it up.
The Despicable Disciples of Hypocrisy, something like that. I can't think of the name of the group that he was in, but it was late 80s, early 90s that he was in this hip hop group as a teenager, but then he evolved into what he does now. Okay. But he had a concert scheduled this past spring in St. Louis, and it was going to be a secret that I was going to take her.
But it was going to be a secret. I was going to take you. That was going to be a surprise because
we was going to take each other?
That's what's up.
But you like him the most.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what's up. Y'all was both going to be in the same place.
Right.
There you go.
Hey, that's how it worked out. Telepathy. Telepathy. Already.
Financial investment into
There
it.
you go.
Already. So, next one. Can you tell me about who was your most memorable teacher? Or, give me a couple of if you got them. But your most memorable teacher. And I ain't just talking about school, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But these some good questions, man. I got some good answers.
Memorable teacher is my mom, for sure. My mother is I would like to say that I'm very fortunate to have a mother who's not just my mother, but she's also a spiritual mother. Like she's what they call an intercessor in a church. So she's been doing that for many years, and she's just she knows who I am. She's always like known and asked questions, and she's guided my spiritual path, and not just what we grew up doing, in and out of the church, but me tapping into who I am as a spiritual person. She's guided that. So she's been one of my greatest teachers. My grandmother is another. Willie Mae.
Shout out to Willie Mae.
Willie Mae Jackson. Yeah. She's no longer with us physically, but she's always with me in spirit. So those two women have been my greatest teachers. My other greatest teachers are my children. And I'll say that to just be straight up and honest. Like, Dreamer, I can honestly say, has kept me alive on more than one occasion. So, and then she's a free spirit. So she's taught me a lot in her wisdom as a free spirit. And so they've been, I believe their purpose is to teach me. Like, not for me to like raise them, but for them to teach me.
Gotcha.
And so they're my biggest teachers too.
Gotcha.
When I think of that question, the first person that came to my mind was my grandfather, Albert Bernard Moorhead. He was my greatest teacher because some of my best quote unquote sayings or Kwamiisms come from my experience with him. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. That's one of the things that he taught me. Another thing that he taught me is your prayer is your work. He was a deacon at Mount Zion Baptist Church, and he was one of the founders of Arkansas Baptist College.
Oh, word.
Yes.
Okay.
So he taught me a lot sitting on the front porch. I go over to 1500 Summit Street, which is right around the corner from Central High School, and I spent a lot of time just sitting on the porch talking to him. So he was my greatest teacher of all time. As far as institutional education is concerned, I got two teachers that comes to mind. My fourth grade teacher at Terry Elementary School, her name was, at the beginning of the year, her name was Pamela Rutherford, but then she got married, and by the end of the year, her name was Pamela Crawford. And the reason I liked her, it was a redhead white lady, and one thing that she did for me that none of my other teachers did for me is she forced me to admit that I was excellent, that I was intelligent, that I was, because school was so easy for me growing up because I had an older brother that was 2 years ahead of me, and he used to teach me his homework. So I was always 2 years ahead of everybody because I learned from my brother's homework. So school was just so easy and so boring for me that I would just go hang out. And this teacher, Pamela Rutherford / Crawford, she made sure that I was enrolled in the gifted and talented program, and she made sure that I excelled. And another teacher along those same lines is over at Franklin Intermediate School, which her name was Dorothy Phillips. And this was a sister. It was actually the first black teacher that I ever had.
What grade was this?
6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, first black teacher I ever had in the 6th grade. And she did the same thing for me. Is she forced me to be more than I was putting out to be.
Dope.
And I had one more teacher like that is Miss Rutherford over at not Rutherford Croft.
I was gonna say
Ruth, Miss Caruth over at Central. That she's my geometry teacher.
That's what's up. I know one thing for sure is, man, we always we definitely remember our first black teachers.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because I don't know about y'all parents.
Yeah.
But when my parents saw a black teacher in the room, parent-teacher conference, or at the beginning of the year, open house, man, it was almost kind of unspoken. It was kind of like,
excitement.
That's your son? Oh, yeah, I got your son.
Yeah.
So it was like, man, they already know they got an ally at home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because my mom and my dad was just like,
Right.
my dad, I like her, man.
Yeah.
That's a good teacher right there.
Yeah.
Like, she ain't even taught me a lesson. They just know it was a vibe. Because they kind of could just look at your parents and be just like, they good, they engaged.
Yeah.
And so, it was always was a blessing to have a good black teacher.
Yes, it was.
And your parents supporting them, man. Because they're going to get the best results out of you a lot of time. For sure. Already. And so my last question, random, 7th question. What inspired y'all to start Jay Stone, Bench's Soul, the radio show on 88.3?
So that happened.
Sounds like a good story.
The inspiration of it came from the passing of Prince. So when Prince passed away, we were already talking about doing some type of show or podcast or something with music, because we were both big music heads and lovers. And so he when Prince passed away, it was like one of those things where like, what? Are you serious? Like, what's going on in the world type thing? And then we were like, okay, so what are we going to do? Well, Kwami was thinking about, he came up with this thing where he was like, we should write a proposal to 88.3 asking them if all the DJs for 24 hours can play all Prince songs.
Oh,
wow. His discography is massive. So you would never ever have to play the same song on repeat.
And they all play different songs. Nobody repeats.
No, right. So that was the proposal.
Yeah.
It didn't work because the DJs, were not down with it. Well, some of them were, but some of them were not, and then we couldn't infringe on their time and space on the radio. Yeah. So we was like, let's just get a show and let's just play, like in our second half or third half of our show, let's always play a Prince song starting off. And then the idea of it just started rolling out, like, okay, we can do that to honor his memory, and then we'll also do music history, and then we'll do who sampled it, to where we can connect the old school with the new school, and why this song is actually a big hit, because they sampled this major hit back in 1965 or whatever year. And so we were doing that, and Lauren was like, he was a baby by the time we actually got started.
Lauren was just about 6-7 months old.
Yeah, and so he was talking in the background and other stuff, and we just incorporated it within our show, and then gave him a little name,
Jazzy Leo.
Lauren the Jazzy Leo, because he started getting fans. Like people would like call to say, "Where's Lauren today?" You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't hear Lauren in the background. He became a part of the show.
He has fans. When people call the show, they don't call to speak to us. They call to speak to Lauren.
Is Lauren there today? Is he in school? Is he taking a nap?
He's a part of it, you know.
And that's where it came from. That was the
even before Prince was assassinated, I'll say that.
Hey,
but
I agree.
Yeah, I gotta say that.
Yeah.
But even before then, we were having work done on our house, and the workers, the brother and his crew that was working on our house, they needed some music. So I would plug in my iPod, and it would play all day long. And they would well, what radio station is that you was just playing? I said, that's my iPod. Oh, you need a radio show. So I'd say like 90% of the music that you hear on Jay Stone comes from my iPod.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. And I appreciate that too, man, because I'm a music head. You know what I'm saying? So I love like music history. That's why I'm like, I wrote down this guy, Michael Francis. I'm like, man, it's got to be like a documentary or something out there about him.
There he is.
I'm about to say, because that's all I do since I'm at home all the time now. It's like, you know, when I got some free time, I'm like, let me go find some free documentaries to watch, because they are all over YouTube and the internet.
And his new album drops on August 1st.
Hey, I'm going to check it out, man. I love music history. I love picking out samples. I do that all the time in my head, man, especially in the studio when people playing their beats. I'm like, I know that sample comes from.
Right. And just knowing how important a dope sample can make a hit for somebody, you know, and making sure we giving credit to those who actually did it.
Oh yeah, if you a hip hop head, you gotta respect where the sample coming from, man. Exactly. Gotta respect the DJ and the producer, man. You know? So man, great answers, man. Great answers. I'm gonna just jump right into it. Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement, man. I've been to several of the events over the last couple years. Been hearing a lot of great things that y'all doing. What started the whole process of forming that organization, and just what was the original goal and purpose, and how has it grown since then?
It started with Washitaw Foothills Youth Media Arts and Literacy Collective, and here the purpose of APJMM is a project of our nonprofit, and the nonprofit focuses on youth. And what they do is their focus is to look at the social determinants in our communities, find those, whatever it is, whether it's racism, sexism, gender, inequality, just the spectrum, right? Whatever issues affect them, and then from there they use whatever art form that they have. And we also lead them into oral history. So oral history for them is they become like many, I would say, journalism, but they do like the investigative journalism, where they are digging for the issue. They find an issue, and then we teach them how to do we teach them what to do about it. Like, okay, so I forget the terminology. Solutions-based journalism. That's it. That it wouldn't come to my brain. But yeah, so we would teach them how to find solutions to what issue happened, what could have been done to change that outcome, and then what they would do. And so we had them doing. We were working with the Memory Project at Central High, and we still have a relationship with that. But hold on.
Well, I want you bringing up the Memory Project. I just want to say that the Washitaw Foothills Youth Media Arts and Literacy Collective, our first major project was the founding of KWCP, Student Oriented Community Radio. Yeah, I remember that. 91.9 out over 98.9, excuse me, LPFM out in West Central Community Center, and that was our hub for doing all the activities that Clarice is talking about.
Right. So can't forget about that. Yeah. So it was basically was founded there, but we wanted to continue working with the city with what we were doing with their program, but so. From that, APJMM actually was birthed when we took a family trip to Montgomery, Alabama, to the Equal Justice Initiative.
Yeah, okay.
So when we went back, it was about I think it was around April. It was April 2018. That's when we took the trip.
So that was before the actual opening of the Legacy Museum.
No, we were there the second week after they opened.
Week. Because they had opened the week before, and they had the whole celebrities were there.
Okay, so I was there that week.
I know you were there.
Yeah.
We didn't go.
We were there the second weekend.
Yeah, we didn't go.
Gotcha.
We didn't get a chance to make that, and I wanted to go so bad. And then I was like, oh, we missed that. But let's go next. Next
and
week.
I have to confess. I really have to confess here. Though she was pushing to go. And I was like, I ain't going to no lynching museum. I was like, what the hell what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
And then that weekend that it opened, 60 Minutes showed the Oprah Winfrey interview with Brian Stevenson. And then I said, why haven't you told me about this? We need to go.
Man, that was powerful.
Yeah, right. And I knew it. And I was like...
But she was trying to go beforehand because she wanted to be there at the grand opening.
I did.
But I was hesitant because I was like, I wasn't interested until the Oprah Winfrey interview.
That's right. And so, but then Dreamer was graduating and, Dreamer was finishing and wanted to do something. And she was like, let's go. So she was trying to push him to go too.
Yeah.
And then it became... well, let's do a family trip and let's all go. So we went.
Mm-hmm.
Life changing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Life changing. So we get, like I said, we tell the story, but actually we did not speak until we got to Memphis. Like
Coming back.
It was completely quiet.
Yeah.
From Montgomery to Memphis, it was totally silent.
Yeah, it was silent.
You didn't even have the radio on.
No, because everybody was just in a very pensive way, just kind of just thinking like, what did we just like? It felt like we were at a funeral. That we were at a funeral. All the ancestors, all the people that, you know what I'm saying? Like it was a mass. It felt like a mass grave. And so we didn't even hardly speak when we were on the grounds. Like we would say a few things, and it was in a very like a whispering tone, because it was that much reverence for that place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so in the car when we got to Memphis, I had looked over at him. I said, we got to do something right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
She
he was
sure
like,
did.
he was like, yeah, I'm thinking. And so we start formulating and thinking about it. And Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement came from that conversation.
Yeah, by the time we landed in Little Rock, we had created this project called APJMM.
And so we were getting feedback from Dreamer, because she was talking, but we were listening. She, because she was expressing herself about it, and her energy and her feelings about it. And then the SB 591 was also birthed a little bit after that, and that was the what was it? It was the winter bill.
Yes,
it was a bill.
It was a bill to create basically a Truth and Reconciliation Commission here for the state of Arkansas,
which we need.
We need it desperately. We're hoping in the 93rd session that we can get it out of interim study and back on the floor again for it to really move and do something. So that's our hope. But it was well thought out, and it was pushed to them. They pushed it back and said, "Okay, this is great," and then it was voted down. But it's
by one vote.
It's okay because again, we're hoping the timing.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because last legislative session I was everywhere.
Yeah.
I was getting pulled all over. Racial equity, looking at racial equity components to all these different bills, whether it be education, environmental, economic justice, all that type of stuff. You always can find a racial equity aspect to pretty much any problem out there. But definitely, right now, this climate right now, what's going on, I look forward to seeing that pass because I think that more than now than anything, people kind of understand that like. You can't just shoot down these type of bills just because you're feeling some type of way about it.
Right.
Yes.
Without, explaining yourself and giving me something real comprehensive as to why you feel like truth and reconciliation is not needed.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I'm glad that the visit to the Legacy Museum and Equal Justice Initiative helped birth that whole organization and the movement. I'm gonna tell you, when I went during the grand opening weekend down there, and man, it was beautiful because it was like a lot of panel discussions. Man, learned so much and hearing so many different stories about the work of Equal Justice Initiative. And it was so packed out that when I went to the Legacy Museum, the visits were timed. So you couldn't, you only had about this amount of time to go in there. I want to say it might have been 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, we was there for at least 3 hours in the rain.
So I got to go back because I've only been to 2 museums that I didn't completely make it through. Legacy Museum is one of them, and I forget the name of
it's enslavement and mass incarceration one. The one
he's talking about another one. He's talking about another one. Go ahead.
The Legacy Museum was the one I went to. And the other one I hadn't made it through yet. Now you might be talking about somewhere I need to go. I'm talking about the one in DC.
DC.
DC. Have you been through that museum?
Yes.
Okay. Because so you know how big it is.
Yes, and it took me a whole day to go through.
Exactly.
It took me a whole day.
And again, my trip through that museum was I was on a time schedule as well. Not because they gave me a time schedule.
Yeah.
That's the Smithsonian African American.
Yeah.
And I've been to DC twice, and each time it's on workshop. And so I never have time to go, and I'm like,
but that one you need a whole day.
Yeah,
you do.
Because I remember I was there for a weekend, and I spent I spent all day Friday at the African American Museum, and all day Saturday at the Native American Museum.
Oh wow, no. So those were like 2 museums that I was like, man, I gotta go back and take it all in.
Yeah,
man.
it was very transformative in a way that we have family ties to the issues of racial terror in Arkansas. Yeah. So for us to learn that Arkansas had 492 and the 3rd highest in the country of racial terror, we were like, what?
Racial terror lynchings.
We were looking at this map and was like, wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I said is we had more racial terror lynchings than Texas.
Yeah.
Really?
Right. and so for us, it was just like, whoa. And so again, it brought back all of the feelings of family ties and issues. Him being Lonnie Dixon, which is connected to the John Carter lynching, and his sentencing as a young 17-year-old with
sentencing and execution
with a white girl who was then convicted of possibly murdering her, which he did not do, and they executed him. That was his great cousin or uncle.
That was my grandmother's oldest brother.
And so
is this the story right here that starts off with the rioting on 9th Street?
Yes.
And then it eventually leads to John.
No, it doesn't start off there. It was the First Presbyterian Church.
Okay. Bell Tower.
In Bell Tower. Her name was Florence, something like that. I apologize for not remembering her name right this second. But it was a young white girl who was found murdered in the bell tower of the church. My great grandfather was the head custodian of the church. And so he was arrested. And his son Lonnie Dixon was arrested as well. And then also there was 3 other cousins that was arrested. So I had like 5 people in my family that was arrested for that murder. And it just so happens the historians have discovered that it was actually the girl's boyfriend that killed her. My great-grandfather, he was released from prison and he disappeared, and no one's ever seen him again. No one knows what happened to him or anything. I personally believe that he's Farad Muhammad and he founded the Nation of Islam because they look just alike.
Hey man, you never know. You never know.
But Lonnie Dixon, at 17, he was arrested in I think March, and executed in, I think, May.
So 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah, the kangaroo court.
And so, but before he was executed, he was shepherded out of Pulaski County, and he was kept in secret at a jail in Texarkana because they knew that they was going to try to break in and lynch him. So the sheriff kept him in Texarkana until his trial. But while he was kept in Texarkana, the white people in Little Rock was going crazy, and that's when they picked John Carter because they needed somebody to lynch.
Well, I don't think any black person was safe. Not especially a black male was safe because they brutally beat several black men just random in the street.
And a lot of black people fled town.
Yes, that's where Pinky Edition came from. A lot of people fled and created Pinky Edition.
And so nobody was safe during that time, and then it was John Carter trying to help a white lady and her daughter with trying to help with a horse. That they thought that John Carter was being, he could have been picking stuff off the street. It wouldn't have mattered what he did. He was going to be targeted by this group of racists, this group of terrorists. Let's just call them what they were. And murdered. And so he was actually lynched on Canis.
The horse incident happened at what we now know as the intersection of John Barrow and Canis. And so when it happened and he realized these white people crazy, and he ran for his life, and he went into the woods, and they ended up finding him at what's now the intersection of where 12th Street turns into Canis at Rodney Parham, where the McDonald's is, where Bradley Blackshire was murdered.
Right across the street.
That's where John Carter was lynched, in that same area.
And so his body was then drugged from 12th and Canis up
to Markham, and then to Markham to Broadway, and then Broadway to 9th and Broadway. His body was drugged behind a car.
Then of course we all know the stories behind them busting into the churches, and getting the pews and Bethel and burning the pews to burn his body in the street. So that's his family attachment. Mine is from the Delta. My great-grandfather, grandfather, and father and family grew up in Tappan, which is about 15 minutes away from Elaine. They grew up there, and also
Tappan is the township.
It's the township.
That Elaine is a part of that township.
Right. It's right. So it's still 15 minutes away, and they grew up also in Elaine and also in Helena. And during my great-grandfather was born during the time my grandfather was there, and they actually, could have been a part of the Elaine race riots easily. But they could have been victims of it, right?
But they escaped.
But they moved. They're my family. Which is the reason why I have family in Chicago. Is there were a lot of migrations and escape to Chicago, New York, and other areas, and so they left and lived. And
jumped on that train and
they
went
didn't
straight
come
to
back
Chicago.
until my great-grandfather was around 32 or so. And I don't know why they can't. I think people just come back from trauma like that because they still have family here.
Yeah.
Because
I said maybe the coast is clear. Maybe
I have
those
an
white
uncle
people don't
who
forget.
stated I'll never go back. Like I'll never come back here. But there are still family members who come because family is still here, and I think family is what keep a lot of us connected to southern states. When we know that there are major injustices that are happening in our states and our cities. But yeah, we in our blood, I believe, had a responsibility
to start APJMM.
To start it, and the blood was crying out from the street.
Yeah.
In the ground.
And Brian Stevenson just brought that up.
He brought that up, especially with the soil collection and marker erection, because you are it's ceremonial to dig up dirt where, you know what I mean, where that person's blood may have been, where the death of that person may have been, and that's part of the process and the experience.
No, man, definitely, man. I'm just thinking back now because it's like all kind of just vivid now. We talking about well, your ancestors, your people, being accused of a crime that they didn't commit, and somebody losing their life because of that, somebody being murdered because of that, and then John Carter. This is what, 1927.
1927.
So we ain't even 100 years away from this, man.
Yeah.
And so that's how relevant it is because I talk to so many people, man, and I'm like, I always just, big history buff as far as especially Black history, and people don't really understand the whole story of what 9th Street was to Little Rock, what it meant to the Black people here in Little Rock, and all the history that's inside the Mosaic Templars.
Well, the thing is a lot of people know a lot more about Black Wall Street and Tulsa and Greenwood, Tulsa, but everything that you know about Black Wall Street and Greenwood, Tulsa, you can take that knowledge and bring it back and put it right on top of 9th Street because the same exact thing was going on here. This was a major hub for Black entertainment around the world. Would stop in Little Rock to perform at the Dreamland Ballroom. I was going to say Dream
they
Ballroom.
Call it Chitlin Circuit.
It's part of it. Was 9th Street was part of the Chitlin Circuit. So we had hospitals and businesses, insurance companies, everything, stores, clothing stores. Anything you could think of, you could buy it in that district. Yeah. And it wasn't just 9th Street. From what my mom tells me, it was 9th Street, 10th Street, 11th Street, and 8th Street that went both ways and back. But the thing is I-630 destroyed all that. And what was all there is now I-630.
Yeah. And I believe originally what they said when they built I-630 was they were going to, I-630 was supposed to pass through 9th Street, and like pretty much destroy all that whole community, and that's why a lot of the businesses left because they knew that the freeway was coming through there.
Yeah, when I was a child, I-630 stopped at right, where the exit where you get off to go to Children's Hospital.
Yeah,
it stopped right before that exit. That's as far as it went.
So the exit before that exit would be Woodrow.
Woodrow was the last exit to get off.
No, I'm tripping. Because it's a Dr. King, it's the Martin Luther King exit now, but it's an exit like right next to Children's Hospital. That's before Martin Luther King.
Indeed. So
it's right next to the kind of like the, what is that over there? I'm not trying to interrupt you.
Oh, but that's no problem. But what I'm saying is when you DMV. So in the area of DMV, that's where I-630 stopped.
Yeah.
And I remember you would have to get off there. And because I grew up at Mount Zion, and we would have to get off there and then go to Mount Zion. And then when they started building it, I remember seeing the explosions because they had to blow up everything in order to get that crevice. And and I'm like, why are they doing this? This is a whole neighborhood that they're destroying. Redlining. Redlining's the birthplace of redlining is here in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow. Wow. Man, it's so much history here, man, that I just encourage people to find out as much as they can. Go down to the Butler Center, go down to Mosaic Templars, Google. You got a computer in your phone or in your hand, and just find out about this history in Little Rock, man, because it's in Arkansas, just period, because there's so much that doesn't get discussed, and they don't add that into the chapter when they talk about Arkansas history. And, we hear about the 1957 integration at Little Rock Central. We hear about bull crap like David O. Dodd, and you know what I'm saying. And we might talk about a few famous Arkansans here and there, but they don't really like to delve into the history of white supremacy, racism, redlining, gentrification.
Yeah.
You know, just racial terror, like we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. You got to start calling things as they are.
Yeah.
And it's their inability to do that which has gotten us where we are right here and today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their inability to be honest and to be repentant.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we definitely have to start those conversations, and we got to talk and just speak on it, man. You know what I'm saying? We can't really be shy about these conversations, man, because that's part of the problem too as well.
Right.
Y'all talked about, you know what I'm saying, APJMM, you know, Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement, and the Elaine Massacre, which recently that was we're not gonna call it a celebration, but
the observance of the centennial anniversary.
Right.
Yeah, 100 years. And so I had a few people ask me, and I know y'all probably know more, but the actual monument,
yes.
I believe they put that in West Helena. Am I correct?
It's in Helena, West Helena.
Helena, West
Yes.
Helena. It's always been just West Helena. We pass by, you see Helena hyphen West Helena.
Exactly.
And so
I
like,
still don't understand that.
I don't either, but hey, it's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? We got a North Little Rock and a Little Rock, so I just chalk it up like that.
There you go.
But what's the? Can y'all tell me the significance of why, like, 100 years later, the marker was put in Helena, West Helena instead of any lane?
Well, the thing is calling it the Elaine Massacre is kind of like a misnomer.
Okay.
Because the event happened throughout Phillips County, southern Phillips County. There were several towns that were affected by this, because you had thousands of white people coming from as far as Dallas, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, coming in to Phillips County, and they were on a killing spree. So the event did not just happen in Elaine, it happened in and around Elaine.
Okay.
So
the mob actually formed at the courthouse in Helena.
Yeah, that's where the mob originally formed.
Which is why they put the monument there, because the mob formed near that, in that space.
Actually, where the monument is where they first, the mob first met, and said, "We getting ready to go kill some niggas."
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason. Another structural reason is because we know that Phillips County, or Elaine, is one of, and let's just be real, the poorest. In that there's no hotels, the restaurants, the access, basically. And that's another reason not to keep it from Elaine, but also to make sure that on the civil rights trail, that when you're making a stop, that you're able to get out, rest if you're in the Delta, rest at a hotel, go to restaurants, and have access to other things. There's not a lot of access in Elaine. I mean, if you've ever visited, then you would know that. And that's no disrespect to Elaine. That's my ancestral home. You know what I mean? That's where my family from. So there's no disrespect for Elaine, but we know from visiting and going where the access is, and it's maybe moving a little, forward, but even from a year or two ago, before they made it, it still did not have access to the restaurants needed, the capacity to hold a large number of people, hotels, things like that on the civil rights trail could accommodate people who are needing to come and visit.
This city wasn't in the Green Book, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing is that where it sits right now, it's right across the street from Centennial Baptist Church, and the vision for this was to actually create a 3-city site, where there would be a site in Helena, West Helena, a site in Hoopsburg, which is the church where everything popped off, and a site in Elaine. 'Cause Elaine was where the concentration camp was located.
Okay.
That's why people say the Elaine massacre. But if you look in all of the federal records, the federal records calls it the Phillips County massacre.
Okay.
It's called the Elaine massacre here in Arkansas, but according to the federal government, it's called the Phillips County massacre. But Centennial Baptist Church was across the street, and what the goal is to eventually turn that site into something similar to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, something really big and spectacular. And they want to go to the site where the Hoopspur Church was and, reclaim that and build something there, and then go to Elaine and build something on the site where the concentration camp was in Elaine. One problem with that is there's a lot of pushback from the local brothers and sisters in Elaine because there's still some unresolved issues as far as them not wanting somebody from the outside coming in and dictating and telling them what to do. They would rather you just write them a check and they do it themselves.
Well, the thing is, I've been called by, and I'll just say the name, Mary Olson.
Dr. Mary Olson.
Dr. Mary Olson. Part of the diaspora of Elaine, and that's people who haven't lived, and I don't even understand that terminology because my grandfather, great grandfather's dad, my father and family lived there, so I don't think I'm part of the diaspora. I don't understand that term. That was my
heritage.
I'm the heritage of the Delta and Elaine, and so for me to get pushback about trying to assist and help and bring about access and resources was disheartening, and it was pretty sad because I thought, how are you a white air quote ally
from Wisconsin,
who lived who never was raised in Elaine,
from Wisconsin,
and it's just not to, I'm not, this is not to be cynical or mean or anything like that, but just being real about the fact that
she's from Wisconsin.
If somebody is coming in to assist in their heritage of a place where their great grandfather, and father were sharecroppers and tenant farmers, how can you tell me that I'm like a cousin, which I was told by another person that I won't even mention, that's coming home to the family and getting information and just kind of, I'm sort of on the outside looking in because I'm not actually living in Elaine. And I would say to that, for me, that's not my reality. I think as I learned more about my family history, me coming into wanting to assist and be a part of the change that needs to go on for Elaine to have the access that it needs to be able to get the resources that Helena and other areas are getting, to me it was an insult and a slap in the face because I'm just like, but to hear that coming from her, to have her to push back and speak of white power structures, this is from her own words, and not understanding that she was also a part of the white power structure when she was trying to prohibit us from coming in and assisting.
Well, yeah, and I mean that needs to be stated because for a long time, even with just our Black history, our history, our Pan-African history. There's been a need to always take back ownership of our history and telling the stories.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We got a rich, as African people, we got a rich history with the griots and the storytelling and people knowing the story and being passed down just the oral tradition. But, you know what I'm saying, and what we see now is, so we have books written by people who don't look like us, and they've started to take control of the narrative. They've took control of the narrative and won't tell the entire story. They'll tell the bits and pieces that they want to know.
Right.
But they don't. But they want us to know. But they won't tell us everything. And so, to me, especially like right now, this is a great time to like take back ownership.
Absolutely.
Because we don't need people telling our stories that don't look like us.
Right.
We need to be able to give this to each other,
especially people from Wisconsin.
The thing is, when you postured yourself as a savior in a community.
Oh, we're done with those.
When you postured yourself as a savior in a community,
Black Lives Matter,
and you have the minds of the people who were there, and even the hearts of the people who were there, because of, we all know the energy and the hurt and the trauma in Elaine. And so when you have somebody to come in and they are like, I'm here to save the day, I'm here to give your people all the things that you possibly may need and whatever else I can give, right? And so they have become, it's a matter of becoming codependent on the savior of sorts. And so whenever somebody else like yourself come in, you are getting attacked by not only the white power structure, in which I'm using her words,
but you're getting contact by those people who look at her because she's their welfare state.
Not only that, you're getting attacked by your own people because they feel like, who are you to come in here and try? She's been here before you came.
She's done this and that.
And so you get a loyalty type situation where it's not based and rooted on what should actually happen. It's based and rooted on the fact that you don't understand that saviorism is happening, and that you've subjected yourself to that, and now you feel like what I'm doing is trying to remove that because she's threatened now, and so she's in a position of feeling like, well, if you're gonna let them do something, then I'm out, kind of thing. I don't really know this for sure, but I know from my interactions that that's been the issue.
Well, the long and short of it is, it's not, nothing was done in Elaine because the people that had the time, money, and resources to do that were all repelled by Mary Olson.
And threatened, let's just be honest, to that if we were involved in any way, or if anybody ever came in from what she called the outside, that the community would not assist, and it wouldn't happen. So right now we had to actually take a step back and work on other areas in Arkansas, and just let Elaine be where they're gonna be, and do what they're gonna do respectfully because of that.
Yes.
Because of that.
Man, we could talk about this for a good little minute because people come into these rural communities a lot of times with that savior complex. It really is hard to get people to understand that, that's not really what you want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It might provide you with some type of resources and a little money and some funding. Yeah. But ultimately what you really want to do is empower yourself and people in the community to do that and do more, because again,
sustainability is what they need, not free stuff.
Sustainability and a happy future.
Yes.
You're not gonna do that with people like nitpicking and goose stepping around what you're trying to do. Man, I'm gonna switch gears up just a little bit because there's so much I want to talk about.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna try to hold y'all too long, but I want to talk about this right here, because like I said, I love history, and one thing that I feel like that's really helping a lot of people is a lot of these documentaries and movies that have been coming out that's just telling the different stories about what goes on in our community. I just watched a movie last week, called Promised Land, where it talked about the farmers in southern Arkansas who had been tricked and intimidated out of their land in Arkansas, and the steps they took to go all the way to DC to fight to get that land and the money that they were owed, and they still fighting for, and that's right here in Arkansas. And a friend of mine actually directed the film, Ashley.
I think I saw that.
Mathis.
We're going to need to put that on the Shelter-in-Place virtual film.
I'm going to put y'all in contact with it, because it was great. It was a great film. I watched the premiere of it on the YouTube Live. But that's what I wanted to jump into. Just I think that, man, it's something that was just dope that y'all did. The Shelter in Place film series, while everybody is like, social distancing at home, watching films for free, and being involved in like interactive chat and panel discussions. Tell me, where did that idea come from? Was it just something that's like, man, we want to keep on working. We don't want to slow down with the energy we've been given, or was it just like something that was already kind of in place, and then the pandemic just kind of just helped it explod? Because I know a lot of people been checking them out.
So I would say,
and please, if
was that a shut up? I got
no, not that, because it was actually Kwame's the brainchild of doing the shelter, the going virtual series. Now we were already doing public forums.
Yeah, I know. I came with a few of them.
We were already doing public forums, and we were having panels, and we had a momentum going that we wanted to keep. So we were like, oh my God, this is happening. How do we keep this momentum? Because they've shut down our ability to do our markers, to do our soil collection, to do any community thing. And so we had to, the word that's used all the time now is pivot. we had to pivot, and we had to then decide what else can we do to continue the momentum that we were having with the community events, which were called Seeing Our History in 2020. Yeah. And so it's pretty profound now, because we are actually seeing our history the way we had kind of envisioned it, in that it's hindsight is 2020, right? So we kind of talked about it in a way, but then he started putting legs to the conversation, and we had already had a relationship with the local Arkansas PBS. Okay. And we also had a relationship with independent films, right? He got in contact with them and was like, we need another platform, like what's happening. And they connected him to the OV, which is the platform that we use now. Okay. Which is pretty dope, because you can have interactions in comments, chat. You can emote about a situation if you're watching the film. And then after that, you can make people, you can put people's panelist information in on this platform, and allow them to be moderators on the platform. So they introduced that, and he has more details of that. So I'm gonna hand that part over, because he did the lead work on getting that, changing that to the OV platform.
Yeah. Well, we, like she said, we had a relationship with Independent Lens, and I've had a relationship with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting since the early '90s, when I had PHAT LIP YouthTalk Radio over on KABF.
PHAT LIP.
Yes, indeed. So I just redeveloped that relationship when we started with APJMM to start doing the film series over at the Ron Robinson. So when the pandemic broke out, like she said, I reached out to Independent Lens and said, okay, what are we going to do now? So the platform is called OV, and it's actually owned by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. But the subscription to become a member is so expensive that a normal nonprofit like us that has no income whatsoever, except for the money that we get from our paychecks, we couldn't afford that. So since we had a relationship with Arkansas PBS, we contacted Arkansas PBS and said, hey, we want to do this. We can't do it unless you guys come with us. So, and they said, oh, sure, put our name on it. So gave them the paperwork, they signed it, and because they signed it, we didn't have to pay the exorbitant fee to become a part of it. So we got Just Communities of Arkansas, the Arkansas Cinema Society, and the Arkansas Minority Films and Arts Association to come on board with us, and that's how we originally launched it. And our first bet was, we thought that this pandemic was going to be like a month or so.
Everybody did.
So we only planned for like 6 weeks.
I remember. I registered for all 6 films on the same day. I was
exactly.
And we was like, it'd be over by then.
Yeah, it'd be over, and then we could be back to doing what we was doing.
Yeah.
And it was all on Sunday then too.
They were all on Sunday,
Yeah.
and then by the time when we got to week 5 and we realized this gonna go longer than we thought it would, that's when we started applying for grants.
Okay.
And through our partnership with Just Communities of Arkansas, we were able to secure a grant from the Arkansas Humanities Council. But in order to get the grant, we had to agree to not just do it on Sunday. We had to do it a minimum of 4 days a week, and we had to have a minimum of 1 panel discussion every other week.
Okay.
But
So,
we're cool. We were pretty cool with that anyway, because we were already on that path. Not necessarily doing it in like public stuff, but just the fact that if we have this platform, we're able to do more. So it was just like, okay, you know what I mean? We can do it.
Yeah. So what we're able to do with that grant is, one of the things that stopped us from screening a lot of films that we wanted to screen is, a lot of these films you got to pay $500 just to get the screening rights for one screening.
That's the issue.
And then if you try to get somebody to be a part of the panel, you got to pay them as well. So with this grant, we're able to pay for those screening rights, and we're also able to pay for people panels, like the panel we just had on the Black Lives Matter movement here in Arkansas. Everybody, all the 12 Black Lives Matter organizers there, we were able to, be able to give them something for the time that they spent with us, and we'll continue to do that.
Dope. And so, how do the listeners, man? How do they find the Shelter in Place virtual film series? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Shelter in Place virtual film series. If you go to Facebook and type in Shelter in Place virtual film series, it'll pop up. We're on all social media, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those. We have a YouTube channel, so you can go to any of those. If you just go to Google and type it in, it pops up.
Dope.
Go to Eventbrite, it comes up on Eventbrite. So anything, if you type in Shelter in Place virtual film series, or type in Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement films, or type in WAFLMAC, Washitaw Foothills Youth Media Arts and Literacy Collective films, it all pops up. Or you can just send us an email. Hey, we'll direct you.
Dope. I'm not trying to hold y'all. I got like 2 more things. I gotta talk to y'all about, and then we can shut it down. We can shut it down. But I'm glad people getting this good information. I'm just gonna say this phrase, and I just kind of want y'all opinion on it, and then we can chop it up a little bit. Okay. But I've been really talking about how we can defund the police.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Man, just looking at the budgets, in particular Little Rock and the Arkansas State Police, we see how much money is going into the police department's budget to basically, I guess, do whatever job they're trying to do. And because I have my own feelings on it. And so I just kind of want y'all feelings on it, because like one thing that's goes without saying, during this pandemic, what we have noticed once again, a resurgence in a lot of police brutality, resurgence in uncovering corruption, and what I'm saying, once again, black people are back at the forefront, and a forefront of protest, I'll say. And back in the media talking about ways that we can end police terror on communities. What does defunding the police look like to y'all?
Well, first of all, defunding the police is not something new.
It's not.
Martin Luther King and Stokely Carmichael talked about defunding the police. They just didn't use that terminology. But like you said, the budget of the Little Rock Police Department, I think it's $82 million.
Yes.
$82 million, and defunding the police is asking for 10% of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what to defund the police is say, give us a percentage of that so that we can apply it to programs that are less deal with giving you more of an ability to come into our communities and brutalize us and vandalize us and to murder us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put that money in other places, because you don't need $82 million a year to pay people to come from Benton and Cabot and all other white towns to come into this town and to brutalize people because you don't know them, you don't empathize with them, you don't care about them,
Mm-hmm.
you're not invested in the community at all. So you come in, you get your $50,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
and a free cop car to drive home, so you don't have to pay gas or anything.
Yeah.
So what our thing is defunding the police, and Carissa Rogers, she laid it down over at MacArthur Park when she explained that, and I took her speech and posted it on Facebook, and everybody's like, that's what it means.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, she's an expert at explaining it. Now, me personally, I like being able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of communication means that you have to understand that there is someone who sends a message, there's someone who receives a message, and then there's the message and the channels that it goes through. And if you don't take all of that into consideration, then you have not successfully communicated. Saying defund the police, we are not successfully communicating what it is we need, because the message does not get to the receiver, because that defund is triggering, and it can be easily co-opted, because you can take that word and put your own definition to it. Whereas our defunding the police, meaning to reduce the budget and reallocate, their defunding the police means, you want to take all the money from the police and shut them down. Yeah, I would love to abolish the police. I would love to abolish the police, because if we live in a sane, civil, loving society, there is no need for the fucking police. But we got a lot of work to do to get there. But that's not what we're talking about right now. We're not talking about taking away your budget. We're talking about reallocating a portion, 10-15% of your budget to other resources that can be better utilized to deal with the issues that people are calling 911 for. We're not talking about the Karens. Karens calling 911 because they're crazy. I done had a Karen call on me 911 on me a couple of times. So the terminology that I like to use is civilize the police.
Okay.
And I like to use civilize the police because back in the 70s, when we were having the National Black Conventions, there was the first one was in Gary, Indiana. The second one was here in Little Rock, Arkansas, at Central High School. And they talked about civilizing the police, humanizing the police, because they were basically coming into our communities, like I said, and they were not
being civil servants.
They were not being civil servants. Yeah, they were not being public servants, civil servants. They were an occupying force. They are an occupying force. So what I really would like to see is I would like to see America really take time to look and see what happened in Newark, New Jersey. You want to talk about defunding the police? Newark, New Jersey actually did it. Newark, New Jersey They abolished their police department, what, about 7, 8, 9 years ago?
Okay.
They totally abolished it and fired everybody. Every single police officer, the chief, everybody was fired. And they actually went for like, I think, a year without a police department at all. And this was at the time when they had the third highest crime rate according to FBI statistics. And they decided, hey, what we're going to do is we can't repair this. This is irreparable. So we have to destroy it and rebuild it. So they abolished their police department, and they took a year where the community came together and they rebuilt the police department and fashioned it in the way that they want it to be, where the emphasis is on community policing. The emphasis is on walking a beat. You don't drive a police car in Camden, New Jersey. You walk a beat. And you're required. One thing about you'll like this, Clarice, but when their police officers graduate from their academy, their first year being a police officer, they're not even allowed to arrest anybody. They're required for the first year to do community service.
Yeah.
Then you're invested in the community and you have relationships with the community. We talk about the brother, Mr. Keaton, who was assassinated by the Arkansas State Police. What was that, 3 weeks ago? Over on Roosevelt?
Oh, yeah, Roosevelt over there by the gas station.
Okay, so when you have somebody with a mental health crisis, that response is not to shoot and kill them. What do you put, 8 bullets in the chest and 1 in the head or something like that? That's not the response to deal with somebody that's having a mental health crisis. How Camden does it is when they have someone that's having a mental health crisis, they call in enough police to just surround the person and then just talk to him. And if he wants to move this way, the whole squad that's surrounding him moves with him. And I watched a video of this. They had this one dude going through a mental health crisis, and for 45 minutes he was walking up and down the street, and they was just walking up and down the street with him, talking to him. Not one person put their hand on their gun or on their weapon or anything. And then he got tired, and he said, "Okay, I'm ready to go." And then that's when they walked to him and said, "Come on, never put a handcuff on him. Just put him in the back of the ambulance and let the ambulance take them away." That's defunding the police. And that's what we're talking about when we say defunding the police.
And there's no easy or word to describe what needs to happen. There is no nicer way to say that we need you to reinvest in our communities, other than say we need you to reinvest in our communities, and in whatever form that comes in, defunding the police, whatever. And then if I say that, let me explain. But I agree with Kwami in that we deal in a society where when you have the people who are in power they shut down completely
and hijack your message.
And when you start putting certain words out, the conversation is over. And so we have to be crafty in that when we are in a negotiating space, what we're saying, we're not taking away from defund the police, but
we just have to speak their language.
If we're going to negotiate, we need to be able to speak the same language, but letting them know where we stand completely, so that we can get some things done. We don't want to shut down of the thought of idea, because once we bring it up, it's no conversation. And then we spend several hours trying to get them to focus on what we're trying to say, when that one trigger word is what shut the whole conversation down. Is that something that we are willing to do is the question. And we're tired of trying to pacify, and I know it seems like there's a pacification happening, but then we got to also think in a very strategic way with who we're working with. We can go back to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing when she was in her writings. in her ISIS papers and in her speeches when she was talking about knowing how to coexist in a way that you must know yourself first. So there's the know thyself. In order for you to then know,
must know your enemy too.
Who the people that are in opposition with you is. And knowing that, you have to be able to, and for me that was so profound. So you can put that on the book of transformation. The ISIS papers for me, because it was so profound. Because if I don't know myself, I can't really speak on the issues. That's number one. I can't speak from an authentic place about the issues. And then if I don't know the people that are in opposition with me, not me being in opposition with them, but them having issue with me, then I'm not able to know how to move. So if I know you're going to pull I'm going to shut down when you say a word or you say a phrase, and then I'm going to change what you say, your message, to make it be something that's hostile and not worthy of conversation, then I'm going to learn that I'm not going to bring you that on that platter that way. Yeah. But I'm going to bring it, but I'm going to use some other things. And then it's still going to be on the menu for me.
Like, take for instance the Arkansas Legislative Committee that met for 3.5 hours. What was this, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? It was 3 weeks ago, because it was around the same time that Mr. Keaton was killed, where for 3.5 hours they had the chief of police for the state capitol and the chief of police for the Little Rock. And for 3 hours, they talked about how they are not defunding the police. They're not taking any money from the police, and how they will kill any protester that does any type of property damage. So they spent the whole 3 hours. So we need to study everything that was said there. And we like, okay, so how do we want to take our message and have them hear what we have to say without them, like Clarice said, shutting down? Because we have to get the legislation passed, and we have to have equity in all legislation, not just legislation moving forward, but we need to go back to all these laws, and we need to reevaluate each and every one of these laws and find out how, if a social or racial equity component cannot be added to it to amend the laws, then they all need to be repealed and start all over from scratch. But the only way that we can do that is we have to figure out a way to speak in a language where those in opposition to us, like she said, can hear what we got to say.
And that's the first thing I thought about too when y'all was saying, talking about those words that kind of just trigger people, and learning how to talk on a level where, they're not already shutting you off before you get done speaking. Legislative session. They do that all the time. It's like one or two words, then all of a sudden they're ready to take it all the way off topic.
That's right.
And argue about it and debate about it. And then when it's time to vote, they ain't got nothing to do with the vote.
It has to do with that trigger word.
Exactly.
Another book that you want to put on your list is called Word Controlled Human Beings. Word Controlled Human Beings. And that's a book that I read about 30 years ago, and still today it's what I learned, and it's meaningful. Already. Hey, well, man, it's been a great talk. It's been a great talk, and I wish I could keep on going, man. We can do a part 2 if you'd like. Oh yeah, we're gonna have some part 2 discussions for sure. But I will end it with this, man. Every episode of the Folding Chair, I do a segment. I'm not gonna tell you where the segment came from, but just know that it's something that I'm adamant about, as far as like when we talked about solution oriented thinking. And we got a lot of things that we talk about short term, but we also got to have a long term plan. And so the section is called this session is called Unplug Your Microwave.
because we want to step outside of the microwave society.
Like it.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying, and we want to think long term. Like, these are the things that we got to talk about in order to understand that, like, you know, everything is not going to get fixed tomorrow, next week, this legislative session, 5 years from now. You know what I'm saying? We got to have a long term strategic plan. And so, like, man, y'all bless us with a lot of information, from books to just history, and ultimately, you know, so looking at everything we talked about a lot of history. You know, it's a lot of history, and I want to know from y'all, just personally, long term with APJMM, with J Stone Vintage Soul, with Washitaw, all the movements that y'all are part of, y'all started, and you know, so continue to grow with. What are some things long term wise that y'all are looking at as far as, like, helping to push towards more solutions in our community, and, you know, so looking at things through a racial equity lens, and also just it's so much. It's like the phrase SANKOFA. You got to look back to in order to see where you're going, in order to make some positive progression. What comes to mind for y'all long term wise, as far as, like, what needs to be done, in particular here in Arkansas, but just in whole in our global village, in order for us as Black people to continue these positive steps forward?
Well, two things.
Ladies first. I think that
pull it.
He took over. Did he not say ladies first? Oh God, he did.
It's documented, so yeah. It's on cam. It's all recorded.
Hold on. So yeah, no, I'm gonna say something, then I'm gonna let you have it. I think that for our community, I'm in 100% agreement with the unplug your microwave. I love that phrase, because even though we actually have a right to the microwave, our community, because we feel like for over 400 years we've had to, like, suppress and stop, not say things, not move forward, and we've been, you know, pushed back in our as far as the equity lens is concerned. And so for me, unplug the microwave in a way that you know that that this is a continuous movement and journey toward liberation, and that we have a lot more work that we need to pick up from where our ancestors laid it down, and passed it on, and just keep going, knowing that we have to then give it to our younger generation. And for me, the investment in our younger generation is important, because we know that once we get to a point, we are then put into the position of advisors, right? Yeah. And not gatekeepers, advisors, which means we are not holding on to this information and piecemealing it out, knowing that our young people are trying to move rapidly into liberation. We are not doing that. We're not holding keys and dangling them, saying, we just hold on, we need you to do this first before we give you the keys. We are not doing that. What we need to do is make sure that we become advisors, and that we give any and all resources that they need to keep the movement going. So for me, the SANKOFA piece, you know, looking back and taking from the past in order to move forward in the present, getting those things ancestors left, bringing them into the movement we're in now, making sure at the same time that we are giving that information to the younger generation so that they can take it and move with it. Was that a two-part question, or
no,
was it just?
I just
Okay.
I was just.
I want to make sure I didn't forget something that you had asked
it was all kind of just in one big run-on sentence.
Yeah,
it was all about pretty much the same thing.
So that's what I think we are trying to do. and we do that in oral history, and then also the coming to the table piece, in which what we're doing now, which is, so we are one of Arkansas chapters coming to the table, where
we're the only Arkansas chapter,
right, where we bring not only our community but the white community to the table, and other communities to the table, and we have real and raw conversations about racial issues, right, and in any issue really. And so, but it's been mainly racial issues, and they're at a point now, our white communities they're at a point now where they are willing to act, and they're ready to act on what they've already known or what they're being enlightened to know right now.
I think more importantly, they're willing to listen,
right,
and then be told how to act.
Well, they I think for me, I think they've been hearing it, but you're right, the listening part has been lacking, and so now we're listening, and now we really want to do something. And our major thing, the major thing for us is use your privilege.
Oh yeah.
And then that's a whole list of how you can do so, and we making that list out.
Yeah. There's two things that come to mind when you ask that question. The first thing is that the Black Lives Matter movement is not a new movement. It's about 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And about 3 or 4 years ago, there were about 60 or 70 black organizations that came together to form a collective known as the Movement for Black Lives. And they've produced a document, a manifesto, if you want to call it that, that's well over 300 pages. And it talks in detail about what is needed in our black communities for the black community to be equitably reintegrated into America. And so I would, for the first part of my answer, is I would encourage everyone to download that document. And if you go to their website, it's in like 15 different pieces. I've taken all the pieces and made it one document. And I put the link on my Facebook page, and if anyone
APJMM.
if anyone email, and we're going to put it on APJMM's website, apjmm.org, or you could email us at apjmm2019@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link. But people need to read it, and they need to study it, because it's basically, I don't know if you're familiar with Amos Wilson's book dealing with Black Power. And it's basically a 2020 version of his book. So that's the first thing that I'll do. The second thing, more specifically as it relates to Arkansas, is that Brother Wayne, on his show Respect for Life on KBF on Sunday mornings, about a month ago, he gave a proposal on how we can think long term. And that proposal, I took that proposal and I put some teeth into it, and I let it grow in my mind, and I put it out there. But basically what the proposal is to get the board of directors for the city of Little Rock to institute a 1 cent, 1.5 cent, or 2 cent tax, where that tax would be on all transactions, whether it be goods or services, within the city of Little Rock. And that tax would go to creating a fund that would, and that fund would be used to revitalize and redevelop the land mass of Little Rock that is south of I-630.
Okay.
And so I am very passionate about that, because I was born and raised off of 12th Street. Yeah. And I'm very passionate about that, and I've been developing and I've been pushing it, and we Clarice and I have hooked up with a couple of other people to create a nonprofit called Investing in Black Futures.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to take that concept. And actually put it into fruition, where there's a 25-year plan,
mm-hmm.
where starting January 1st of 2021 and going to December 31st of 2046,
mm-hmm.
Of collecting these monies in neighborhood by neighborhood south of I-630 and also the Pankey Edition over on Highway 10, and totally using the concept of equitably reintroducing these parts of Little Rock back into the greater Little Rock, because they've been totally destroyed and abandoned and turned into
gentrified
food apartheid areas. No grocery stores or anything, but that's the long term that I'm looking at doing. Then I want this to be a model where once we get it set up and moving here, then we can go to every single city in Arkansas and do this same thing. We can go to Elaine and do this same thing. So we hope, but we want to show that it actually works here, and then be able to replicate it.
Man, that's dope right there. I think you probably gave one of the most in-depth answers. Both of y'all, when it comes to as far as like unplugging the microwave and just getting out of that mindset that everything's going to be fixed tomorrow. And you know, that was education for all the listeners out there. When you start thinking about long term, knowing some of the ways that you could actually develop and promote empowerment in the community, man, you got to educate yourself on those type of ways, because very important election coming up this year.
Yes.
All three. Well, I'm starting off locally. My bad.
About local.
Yeah, we talking
that's
about
the most important election.
Yeah, so he talked about the city directors,
Yes.
getting them to agree
Yes.
something. We got
Talk about the at-large.
Yeah.
3 at large, and then I believe it's Ward 4. Was it Ward? Man, it's one of the wards.
Yeah, there's 4 positions.
There's 4 of them,
coming up.
and so we got some people that's running that we know, and so like taking over that board, possibly getting a new school board this year too, whenever they relinquish control, and so definitely want to think about that. So man, dope episode, man. Episode 4, man. I don't know what we're gonna entitle it, but I got my notes here.
Lauren wanted to say something.
Come on,
so go ahead and ask him a question for the mic.
Lauren, how you doing, buddy? All right, man. Hey, what's something you want to tell the good people, man? Some good news. You got any good news for us? Spider-Man. All right.
He's been obsessed with Flash and Spider-Man lately.
Okay.
So that's all.
And a little Batman too.
And a little Batman.
Well, he just tried a little spider web, little magical spider web. So that's all good, man. We got to teach the babies, man. It's always important. Man, it's great to have this discussion with y'all, man. This is the Folding Chair podcast powered by the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. I want to give a shout out one more time to Kwami Abdul-Bey and Clarice Abdul-Bey.
Thank you.
Please go check out Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement on their site, on Facebook. Check out the Shelter in Place virtual film series, and all the great work that they're doing in the community, and on Vintage Soul 88.3 give me the date again.
Every Tuesday from 2 to 3.
Every Tuesday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Central Standard Time. But we're also podcast, all the venues, Anchor, and any other platform.
Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, any podcast platform, probably the same ones that you're on.
I got the game late, so you know what I'm saying.
Our first 4 years were on Mixcloud, so for the first 4 years you can check us out there, and then we just kind of expanded to other.
Hey, that's what it is, man. You got to get the message out there. But we appreciate it, y'all, man. Hey, listeners, continue to keep on listening to these new episodes coming up, and thanks for listening to the Folding Chair podcast. My name's Osyrus Bolly, and we out.
The God.
Thank you for listening to the Folding Chair Podcast, powered by the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. For more information on the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, find us on Facebook, Arkansas Public Policy Panel, and follow us for more updates on the podcast and the work of the Arkansas Public Policy Panel.